Darfur, a place where 400,000 people have been killed and more than 3 million people displaced. Already falling asleep? Here's an inside look to current Darfur.
وطيت أربع ضبابات وجنجويل وجاء الحرقان الحلال في الحلال بتاعنا والشالة تاجنا واتحرق لنا وجناه وخلت فيه وخلى الرجل بتاعه المات خلينا هناك فيه وجينا وقعنا في التينة. الحمد لله نشكر لهم لقينا منظمة الشالة وجابانا في الهيان هنا.
حكومة لجادة سيدنا كل قدرة وأيانا قدرة وأنا جريرة جين.
Alright, so before we go into depth with this tragedy, let's go over a few questions that might be running through your mind right now. First of all, how did this crisis even start? Secondly, isn't the US doing something about this situation? And most importantly, where on earth is Darfur? Well, if we look at a map, Darfur is really Western Sudan, so it should be right around here. Whew, so now that's covered, let's jump to a different question. How did this even start? There's a beginning to everything, isn't there? Let's take a look at this article I found offline. In February 2003, 2 years before the signing of the CPA, two rebel groups, the Justice and Equality Movement, JEM, and the Sudan Liberation Army, SLA, rose up against the Khartoum government, claiming years of inequitable treatment and economic marginalization, among other grievances. The rebellion, led mainly by non-Arab Muslim sedentary tribes, including the Fur and Zaghawa, was orchestrated against the mainly Arab government. Instead of directly attacking the rebel forces, the government launched a widespread campaign to get at the fish by draining the sea and targeted non-Arab tribes in the region, regardless of whether they were civilians or rebel forces. Okay. How about we translate this? Then we'll be able to have a better picture of what's going on. So before Sudan became an independent state, there was a conflict going on between northern and southern Sudan. During this conflict, Western Sudan, Darfur, stood up with rebel groups to complain about their lack of treatment and how their economy was being completely ignored. Sounds like a problem to me. But keep in mind, the government was an Arab government, and the rebel forces were non-Arab. So how's this conflict a genocide? I'm getting there. So you remember that weird phrase the article mentioned? It was get at the fish by draining the sea. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. What on earth does that mean? Is that a threat? Well, let me translate it to you. So what this basically means is that the government tried to wipe out all the Arabs to isolate the non-Arabs and later kill the non-Arabs. Pretty cold, huh? But how did they plan to kill so many people? So this is where the Janjaweed come in, and yes, I'm pronouncing it right. The Janjaweed were basically a military Arab force that were given power by the government to do nothing but kill the non-Arabs. But even though the word Janjaweed means evil men on horseback, attacking on land was not all they were assigned to do, or at least what they were capable of doing. They would even try attacking civilians from the sky. These guys really took their job seriously. Which comes down to the final question. What's the US doing about this situation? Let's take a look for ourselves.
Good morning. For too long, the people of Darfur have suffered at the hands of a government that is complicit in the bombing, murder, and rape of innocent civilians.
The United States has a moral obligation anytime you see humanitarian catastrophes. We are the most powerful nation on earth. We have the most stake in creating a order in the world that is stable and in which people have hope and opportunity.
My administration has called these actions by their rightful name: genocide.
And when you see a genocide, whether it's in Rwanda or Bosnia or in Darfur, that's a stain on all of us.
First, the Department of Treasury is tightening U.S. economic sanctions on Sudan. With this new effort, the United States will more aggressively enforce existing sanctions against Sudan's government.
We've got to have a protective force on the ground.
So from looking at these videos, it's safe to say that the problem is being solved, America is helping, and there's nothing to worry about. Hate to break it to you, but that's where you're wrong. Here's why. Even though Sudan's president was called to be arrested, so many people have already been affected by the damage that's already done. You probably have an idea of what I'm saying based on the clips you've seen earlier. Otherwise, why would it be a problem today? And even though we heard that President Bush and President Obama were going to take care of the situation, America never really placed anything into effect. And you know what? Something tells me that America won't be caring in a long time.
Created using Powtoon.